This the chronic?
Yeah, that's the chronic, boy.
So you wanna be hardcore with your hat to the back, talking about the gaps in your raps, but I can't feel that hardcore appeal that you're screaming. Maybe I'm dreaming. This ain't Christopher Williams, still some MC got the feel one, cats I got the feel some. To let niggas know that if you fuck with big and heavy, I get up in that ass like a wedgie. Says who? Says me, the lyrical. Niggas saying Biggie off the street, it's a miracle. Left the drugs alone, took the dubs along with me. Just for niggas acting shifty. Sticks and stones, red bones, but they gotta kill you quicker. Especially when I'm drunk off the liquor. Smoking funk by the boxes, packing glocks. It's natural to eat your niggas like chocolates. The funk, baby.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, episode 3 of the ZaePaxx Podcast is finally here. I had some equipment issues going into this episode. I had to buy 2 replacement cords for my microphone that I use, and of course, waiting for the Amazon shipments to come in. The first one was defective, so I got a second one for free. So that was able to solve that issue, but it definitely was a hassle because every time I would come and sit down to try to get this podcast done and out to you guys, I would run into my microphone not working. So we got that off the ground. We're rolling. I'm gonna get right into a sports recap. It's gonna feel like a while since we talked about sports, since it's been almost a full week since the games were played. So I'm coming to you guys with my tail between my legs because I was wrong on 3 out of 3 of the predictions that I made last week. And to start off with, the first one I was wrong about was the Rams and Saints game, and I'm actually not even going to count that one as me being wrong because that game has been one of the most controversial playoff games in the last couple of years, with the no call on the pass interference. Terrible call. I don't think being able to review it is a solution, because then there's just going to be so many stoppages of the game to review if there was a penalty during that play. But if they're able to clarify when a penalty should be reviewed, like maybe just the fourth quarter, certain penalties should be able to be reviewed, like pass interference, the roughing the passer call in the Patriots-Chiefs game as well. I'll get to that later. But certain instances like that probably should be reviewed, but stopping the play and reviewing very frequently would make the game a snooze fest, for a lot of fans, period. A lot of casual fans would tune out, and a lot of diehard fans would get bored as well because of so much stoppage. But I predicted the Saints. The Rams ended up winning by 3. That game went into overtime as well, and the overtime rules kind of suck, but the Saints had the opportunity to win it, and they didn't. So can't really complain about that. Moving on to the Patriots-Chiefs game. I should have known better than to bet against the Patriots. I really should have learned my lesson, but I thought the Chiefs were going to have it, and they did. They did have it, but another penalty changed the outcome of this game. Well, a few penalties changed the outcome of this game late. A Chiefs player lined up in the neutral zone on defense. He lined up in the neutral zone on a play that the Chiefs actually made an interception. So that would have sealed the game. That would have sent the Chiefs to the Super Bowl. So because that guy lined up in the neutral zone and there's an interception, it negates the interception, and the Patriots ended up moving the ball forward and scoring on that drive. That game also went into overtime. Mahomes was able to drive down the field and make it happen to go into overtime. The Patriots won the coin toss, and they ended up going down and scoring a touchdown on their drive, which as soon as I saw that the Patriots won the coin toss, I just said, you know what, you might as well just turn this game off. It's over. Brady's not going to make a mistake in overtime to seal the game on this stage, you know, against a Chiefs team that wasn't really able to stop him all that much. So I pretty much figured that was over as soon as they won the coin toss. I think whichever team won the coin toss was going to win the game because Mahomes was heating up. He was pretty high. He put up 31 points. You know, it's nothing to scoff at or to play down at all. He played a good game. Now, the big discussion with this game was I think it was a roughing the passer call against the Chiefs against Tom Brady, which a player, if you don't know what a roughing the passer is, it's like basically unnecessary roughness to the quarterback while he's throwing or shortly after the action of throwing, I believe. And the ref called it from behind Tom Brady where he didn't really have a good angle at where the defensive player hit Brady. And the defensive player ended up hitting Brady in the shoulder, not even on the head at all. So that shouldn't have been a penalty. And that changed the outcome of that game significantly as well. But, you know, overall, it was a good weekend of football. The Pro Bowl is tomorrow. I couldn't really care less, to be honest. It's just, you know, it gets pretty boring because the players respectfully, you know, don't want to get hurt in a game that doesn't mean anything. And there's no real reason to go out there and, you know, make it extremely entertaining. They do like trick plays and they line up people from other positions and other positions. Like I saw Ezekiel Elliott taking snaps as a quarterback yesterday while I was flipping through the sports channels. They were showing him running some plays at QB. So, I mean, I probably won't tune in, you know, but if you're into that kind of thing, it's kind of goofy. Check it out tomorrow. I think it's at noon. And then the following week is the Super Bowl. Patriots, Rams. I'm going to take the Patriots. I can't bet against the Patriots 3 times in a row and then beat me twice and not take them. The Rams, I don't think they're going to put up all that much of a fight against the Patriots. I think it's going to be a blowout, you know, to some extent. I think the Rams will be able to put up maybe 21 points, and the Pats are going to put up 40 plus, I'd imagine. Tom Brady's going to go into that game with a lot of momentum. He has something to prove to the rest of the league and to himself, I think, more than anyone, that he's still that guy when it comes to quarterbacks. And, you know, he's been proving that. He's still that guy with how he's been playing. Regardless of the ref calls, regardless of anything that happens that he can't control, he's really been going out there and showing up week after week since it's been the start of the playoffs. You know, he's buckled down and he's showed everybody that he's still that guy. So I'm going to take the Pats. Am I all that invested in this game? No, not at all. You know, I don't really care if the Patriots win. I don't really care if the Rams win. But if I was a betting man and I was to put down some money, I'd put some money down on the Patriots. You almost have to in this situation, you know. All right. Moving on to boxing. You know, I picked Bronner for the Bronner-Pacquiao fight. And he went out there and he fought one of the worst fights I've seen in a while. He went out there and got his ass whooped. I think they said the most punches he landed in one round was 8. That was the most punches he landed in one round. And he had one of the most embarrassing press conferences after the fight that I think I've ever seen. Or not even a press conference. He didn't even wait to get to the press. He did this in the middle of the ring immediately after the fight. This guy thought he won the fight. So he immediately went into people are against me. You know, they picked Pacquiao just because of who he is and all this other shit. And I mean, they showed the judges' scorecards, and it was just blatant that Pacquiao outboxed him. You don't even have to be into boxing to see that Pacquiao outboxed this guy by miles. Pacquiao came out and he looked like Pacquiao. I had mentioned that if Pacquiao came out and he was fresh, he had, you know, his legs under him and he was able to move around, that he would be able to outbox Bronner. But I thought Bronner was going to be able to put up more of a fight than he did. He was counterpunching the whole time, really wasn't letting anything go as far as combinations. He landed very few power punches, and his jab just wasn't there either. Pacquiao was jabbing him up all night. Throughout all 12 rounds, the fight went the distance, and throughout all 12 rounds, Pacquiao was just letting this guy have it. So I'm not really surprised, but I am very disappointed in Bronner, and that will be the last time I pick him to win a boxing fight ever again. Just because of what little effort went into that fight. It was boring to watch because of how little effort he put into making anything happen. He wasn't applying pressure in any round, and he just wasn't pushing to make anything happen. It was mind-blowing. I thought he was going to go out there a little more or actually I should say a lot more aggressive than he actually did. And lo and behold, AB, Adrian Bronner, actually has a warrant out for his arrest right now. I ran across this article on late Friday, early Saturday, and AB failed to show up to court in Broward County on Wednesday and now has a warrant for his arrest. Right after getting his ass whooped, he just did not show up to court. So he's a wanted man, and the case is for 2 separate allegations of sexual misconduct in 2 states. So he's fighting 2 cases at the same time. He was arrested in Cincinnati for a speeding incident, and he didn't have a driver's license, registration, or proof of insurance for the car. And he was busted in Atlanta for allegedly groping a woman at a mall, and then arrested in June in Atlanta, I think. Oh, no, in Cleveland for getting on top of a woman and forcibly kissing her. So this dude just sounds like a scumbag in general. I don't keep up with his out-of-the-ring stuff, to be completely honest with you guys, so I had no idea any of this stuff was going on. But his in-ring performance is just about as shitty as his out-of-ring performances. He just sounds like he's going through a lot of shit right now, man. And those cases are not going to be easy to fight. You know, whether there's something, you know, actual factual about what happened or not, I don't know. But I really wouldn't doubt it, especially if it's 2 separate cases, 2 separate states. It's just not a good look for AB, and he probably won't be in the ring for a while after this. He's going to have a lot of court problems. He's going to have to reassess his career and see if this is actually what he wants to do. Because when he went out there and fought Pacquiao, it did not look like he wanted to be there. He was just looked like he was there for the paycheck, which with these cases going on, it might have been true. He might have just needed a paycheck, you know? So with all that going on, I wouldn't expect him to see him in the ring for a while. I wouldn't expect to see him in the ring for a main event for a very long while. So we'll see what goes on with AB, and I hope he's able to take care of that court stuff and get all that shit straightened out. Because I said in the last podcast that this guy had a lot of potential coming in to be a big fighter, to really buckle down and become something, man. And he just hasn't. Time and time again, he disappoints and does like what he did against Pacquiao was his worst performance to date. and it can't go any more downhill from there. So I hope he gets his shit straightened out, man. It's sad to see wasted talent. Very sad. Moving on to the news segment of the podcast. I have a lot to talk about here. There's been a developing story in regards to a Native American elderly man and some Catholic school kids in Make America Great hats at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington. The Catholic school kids are high school students, I believe around the age of 15, 16. And they were there on a field trip from Kentucky with their school, is my understanding. And a majority of them are wearing Make America Great hats. So this is where I have my first problem, is right here. This is... Also, I'll stop the story right here to kind of dissect it as I go. So, on a field trip of high school students aged 15 to 16, the chaperones or the teachers, whoever's in charge of these kids, these children, had no problem with these students showing a political backing, a political opinion, a political stand that is very controversial, to say the least. I'm not saying these kids shouldn't have an opinion. I'm saying that this is a very controversial opinion to have, to be so outward about, as far as a giant group of kids walking around, all wearing the Make America Great Again hat. As a school, as a teacher, as a parent, as an administrator, as a chaperone, you got to shut stuff like that down immediately, because it's just asking for unwanted attention to these children, to these minors that have should really have no strong opinion on politics, because A, they can't vote, B, at 15 and 16, I know I thought I knew something about politics, but I didn't know jack shit. I still don't know jack shit about politics when it comes to the deep understandings and to be very educated on something as complicated as politics is. A lot of people with political opinions think they are very educated on the matter, when in actuality they're just very opinionated on the matter. There's a big difference. Everyone's entitled to an opinion, but in order to have a valuable opinion that actually, holds something to it, you should be educated on the matter that you have an opinion on. If I stare at, a piece of art, and I'm not an art critic, and I say, this art kind of fucking sucks, but lo and behold, it's one of the most critically acclaimed, best art pieces in the world, who looks like an idiot? The person that has the opinion that's not well educated on the matter, or the people that have an opinion that have a deep understanding and a deep education on the matter? Just to break it down into a easier look on it. So that's the first problem I have. The second problem I have is, why did the teachers think it was a good idea to take these students into a march for indigenous people while these children are wearing Make America Great Again hats, which is a confrontation just waiting to happen as it is between those two people specifically. And I read that there's also a group of Hebrew Israelites there that were being very confrontational to both groups, to the children and to the Native Americans. So as somebody responsible for these kids, this just isn't a great idea in general. You gotta freaking take these children away from an area where they're gonna be in the middle of something that's not for children, And it just amazes me that that wasn't done preemptively to avoid all of this. Now, the confrontation was between a 15 or 16-year-old boy and a Native American that was playing a drum. That's been the thumbnail of this whole debacle. So, from my understanding, what I've read maybe 5 or 6 articles about this and have tried to pick apart the most consistent story that I'm finding. So what I am reading is the Hebrew Israelites were throwing slurs at the Make America Great Again kids, and the Native American man saw it and came between them with his drum and just started playing his drum and wanted to diffuse the situation between the Make America Great Again people and the black Hebrew Israelites. So as he's doing that, the kids are seen chanting, jumping around, almost like mocking this guy that's playing the drum. And one kid in particular is, inches away from the guy's face. The drum player did put himself in the situation of where he is in the guy's, face, in his area, definitely in his personal space. And the kid's standing there with his Make America Great Again hat on, smirking at the dude playing the drums, just right in his face. And, I was a 15 or 16-year-old kid at one time, and, if someone thought they were going to come up and intimidate me and or if that's how he was taking it, was that he was, that the aim of this Indian man was to intimidate him, or Native American, I should say, was to intimidate him, I would probably have a similar smirk on my face, to kind of tell him, hey, you're not gonna play your drum in my face and make me, walk away or back down or move, So I know exactly what this guy is probably fucking thinking right now. Because 15, 16, your balls dropped, you got a little bit of hair on your fucking chest, you're becoming a man. You're a few years away from being legally an adult. You're almost out of high school. You're not gonna back down from anybody. You feel like you're invincible and all this shit. And him with his little cocksucking friends all around him with their MAGA hats on probably felt like, oh, this old man's not gonna fucking intimidate us. This old man's... And this is all speculation. I should throw that out there because I don't want anybody, getting their panties in a bunch saying, how do you know? You don't know what he was saying. Yeah, fuck you, okay? First of all, fuck you. Second of all, it's just speculation. But I'm pretty damn sure this is what this dude was saying. Because you just see it in his face. You just look at his face. You look at the people's faces in the background. And you can just tell, these are some little assholes. They're Catholic private school, Make America Great Again hat wearing assholes. And I'm not judging them on their political beliefs. I'm judging them on everything to do with this whole picture. I'm taking the whole picture and I'm looking at it in a broad view. These guys are some little assholes. So I'm not going to go into that story and break down his CNN interview and whatever else the fucking happened. What I want to talk about is I was in a sort of argument with somebody I know. The person asked to not be quoted or to be brought to attention of who they are, probably because they know that they said some stupid shit and they just don't want to be outed on it and made to look like an asshole. They also own a clothing brand, so that's probably also why they don't want to be thrown out there even farther, because that's not a good look. But there was a picture that resurfaced of the same high school that those little assholes were from, Covington High School. where they're at a basketball game and some students in the crowd are seen with full black paint on them from head to stomach. All their arms, their face, their chest, their back, everything black. And the statement that was made about one of the pictures that was posted was, pictures emerged showing Covington High School members dressed in full body blackface while harassing black basketball player at a public basketball game in 2015. So the second part of that, it's not relevant to me personally. Harassing a black basketball player in a public basketball game in 2015. There's no way to know if they're personally attacking this black player or if they're just, chanting for their team or yelling. There's no video. It's just a picture that I saw. So I have a little bit of a problem with the second part of that post. But looking at the picture, I could see 1, 2, 3, 4 students in full blackface. And I made a comment saying, or actually I should start at the beginning. The gentleman that does not want to be named said, people will really use anything and everything that can be manipulated to fit their agenda, in regards to the picture that resurfaced. And, I looked at the picture and I was like, the second part of it was a bit much, but they are in full blackface. And the guy said, I'm going to make up a name for him. I'm going to call him John. His name's not John, but I'm going to call him John. Just to make it easier so that way I don't have to say the guy that posted that. So his name will be John for this story, okay? So I commented, hey, they are in full blackface, And John said, that's a pretty common pep rally and student section thing, at least in Texas. I've never seen anybody do that with any bad intentions. So, right off the bat, I thought it was a little interesting that he said, it's a pretty common pep rally and student section thing, at least in Texas. I've never seen anybody do that with bad intentions. So he's telling me that he's never seen or heard of anybody do blackface with bad intentions. And later on in the conversation, he says that he had never even heard of blackface until the Tropic Thunder, which is a movie, if you haven't seen it, where Robert Downey Jr. actually plays a black person in a movie. Not offensively, he's not really making fun of black people or anything in that matter, but he is in blackface, black makeup, black acting makeup, for his role. So he said he had never heard about it until that movie happened and it was talked about in the news on whether it was okay or not. And I questioned him about it, saying, you're an adult. This man's maybe 23, 24 years old. I asked him that if he had really never heard of blackface being racist or offensive to people, yet he was saying that people will really use anything and everything that can be manipulated to fit their agenda. So he's taking away credibility of people finding these students being in full-bodied black paint offensive just because he had never heard about it until a movie that he saw. And in response to that, I told him, well, I actually learned about blackface in middle school, so I find it hard to believe that you were never taught or never saw in the news, never read in a newspaper that blackface was offensive and, racist. It's something very offensive to people. And he goes on to say that he learned a lot about racial stuff, that, nobody ever came into his college classes and talked about it either. And one of his friends also chimed in, which conveniently is also a white male from Texas, saying they had never been taught about blackface and how it's offensive to people. And I go on to say, well, you don't watch the news or read a newspaper or anything about that. And he goes on to say that, well, the news doesn't talk about history. The news doesn't really mention anything like that because it's in the past. And I just was appalled by his either A, ignorance, or B, fact that he was just trying to diffuse it onto other things, to direct it somewhere else. I don't know if I'm using the right term, but I even pointed out to him that in October, a few months ago in October, Megyn Kelly was all over the news because she was defending blackface for Halloween costumes. She said she didn't think that it was offensive that people used blackface in Halloween costumes. And lo and behold, today I'm reading on the news that Florida's Secretary of State just resigned after a picture of him in blackface from Halloween was posted. He dressed up as a Hurricane Katrina victim for Halloween in 2005, where he was wearing blackface, earrings, a bandana, a purple shirt, and he was cross-dressed as a woman as well. So he had fake boobs, something in his shirt that looked like boobs. And this is in the news today. This is being talked about on the news today, very broadly as well. So in a matter of October, November, December, January, 3 months, that 4 months, I'll give him 4 months because it's the end of January, 4 months that two big things happen in the news concerning blackface, and you're gonna try to sit there and play ignorant and play stupid, saying that you've never known that blackface was racist, that blackface was offensive, that blackface was not appropriate for people to do, as an excuse for this picture. Now, I don't know if these kids did it with the intent on being racist, but personally, I went to a high school for a year that had black as a primary color of the school, as a spirit color, as a school color. And not once at any rally did I see someone paint themselves entirely black for school support. Not once. Because people should have, if it's not the student that should know better, it's the parent that should know better. If it's not the parent that should know better, it's someone at the school that should know better. Whether it be a teacher, an administrator, somebody. It's got to tell somebody that, hey, that you can't be fucking doing that. And if the kid really doesn't know why and asks why, like, hey, why can't I do this? What's wrong with this? Then that's when you sit down with them and you explain to them, hey, this is deemed offensive by people. And show them the history of blackface, of why it's offensive to people. And it could turn into a real teachable moment there. Maybe that's what these kids should have had in their Texas high schools. And it's pretty convenient out of everywhere. This kid from Texas, this white male from Texas, didn't learn about the offensiveness of blackface. But me, growing up in a small town in California, I learned about the full blackface history, why it's wrong, what it was used for, how it became popular, and why it eventually stopped before I reached the 8th grade. Small farming town in California. It's where I went to elementary school and middle school. And I learned this. And with this day and age, with the internet, with social media, with Google, with all these tools at your disposal, at a click, hear that? At a click of your finger, you could learn about anything you want to. So I am 100% convinced it is just being ignorant or playing ignorant. Pretending to not know. Because the first excuse he wanted to also make was that he never learned about it in school. So he said, blame the system, don't blame the student. I said, interesting. All right. Well, everything you learned that, not to say, not to do because it's offensive, you learned from your teacher at school? Is that the case? Everything that you shouldn't say, shouldn't do, you learned from your teacher telling you shouldn't say or do it? Or you had to pick up some shit along the way, right? Everyone had to pick up some shit along the way that you didn't learn from in the classroom. They call it something, street smarts. You have to pick up a little bit of street smarts along the way. Everybody does. Everybody has at least a drop of street knowledge in their body to know that some things are offensive, some things you don't do, some things you don't say, some things you don't paint your skin, And it's just mind-blowing, man, that this guy was going back and forth on social media with tens, 20s of people, and the amount of excuses that were made and the amount of just bullshit that was put out there by him, finding every little nook and cranny to try to make an excuse for not admitting that this was offensive. Him making excuses of how it could not be offensive or how it was not offensive was in fact extremely offensive. And I'm not black, but I find it extremely offensive. And I know people that are probably black that would find it even more offensive. Personally offensive. I find it offensive to, as like, to be a human, to be the same species as somebody that's so I don't even know a word for it. I doubt he's racist, but to have that mindset, you have to have some sort of racial like undertone or something going on with you. Unless it's just embedded in you, unless you're just taught it at home, to be insensitive. Maybe it's just being insensitive. Maybe that's what it is. He's just an insensitive person to racial issues. And that's just something I really wanted to touch on today, and I really wanted to talk about, because it's been going around the internet a lot right now. It's been in Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. A lot of people are very split about it, and it seems that everybody that's supporting this little kid is also a Trump supporter, and they're supporting him solely because of him wearing a Make America Great Again hat, which has turned into a problematic symbol. That hat is nothing good ever happens when somebody's wearing that hat. Whether it be, these videos of people getting into fights with people that are wearing that hat, which I don't think is right. I don't think you should go around and punch people in the face that wear Trump hats, unfortunately. But when's the last time you saw a positive video with somebody wearing a Trump hat? When's the last time you saw somebody making a positive difference in the world on the internet and they're wearing a Trump hat while doing it? It's almost like a sign of hate, because these kids that were at the protest were also chanting "Build the Wall," which I don't know what that has to do with Native American people. And it's said that they were chanting "Build the Wall." I wasn't there, so I can't say yes they were saying it 100%, but it was said by several different sources that they were chanting "Build the Wall." Which, if that's the case, I think the Native American people would agree. Build the damn wall and send all the European people back. Build the wall around the United States and send everybody back that was not originally there. If you want to go into that. But I'm just very disappointed by my friend, my peer, that had that outlook on this, and I was very surprised that somebody my age, someone, younger, I'm 22, about to be 23. I believe this guy's about the same age. If not, maybe a year younger, year older, somewhere around there. Someone my age having that outlook on something that I thought was just an older generational thing. And maybe that's just ignorance on my side, thinking that it was only older people that had that closed mindset of being insensitive to racial issues, insensitive to these topics. And I even sent a private message to this guy talking about it. I sent him a picture of the Secretary of State that resigned because of the blackface incident, and it just didn't hit home either. He just kept saying, he actually defended the Secretary of State. He said the guy's probably not racist. He just made a really untasteful Halloween costume for a couple of laughs. So he's even defending that guy. I don't know what else to say about that. I just wanted to bring that to you guys. And let me hear what you guys think. Everyone that's listening to this, if you've made it this far into this segment, I want you to go down into the comments and tell me what you think about this whole situation. Whether it be the blackface and the kid not getting it, not knowing that it's offensive. Whether it be the entire Make America Great Again hat, kid, Native American elder situation. And try to tell me your feelings on the matter without being politically fueled in which direction you're going to go. So if you don't support Trump, don't just cut to the point of supporting the Native American. If you do support Trump, don't just cut to the point of supporting the Make America Great Again hat. Does that make any sense? Look at it as unbiased as you can. Read about it. Don't just read one article. Read a few. Watch a few videos. Watch the news. Watch a few news segments about it. And tell me what you think. Whether it be you think the kid's in the right, you think the old man's in the wrong. Whatever your opinion may be. And I'm going to go through and read a few. And if something catches my eye, I'll talk about it in the next episode. I don't think this whole situation is over at all. I think they're going to stretch this because it's a very controversial topic. It's a very controversial event that happened. But we'll see where this goes. So I feel like I've rambled along enough today for this episode. It was sort of a shorter episode, just one topic and a sports wrap up. But next week I'm going to try to get 2 episodes out to you guys. I'm going to do one with Nanny, and then I'm going to do either a pre-Super Bowl breakdown or a post-Super Bowl breakdown, and see how that goes. But next week, 2 episodes for sure next week, okay? Hold me to that, guys. Thanks for listening.